My entitled parents refused to pay me back $12,000 that I loaned to them, telling me that unless I showed them some respect, I would never get my money back. And I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. 2 months ago, I recently lent my parents $12,000 as my family and I moved states, and they needed the money to pay for the house, bond, and rent. Plus, they needed money for furniture as well as some flights and some other things. My dad works and my mom gets money from the government. They have no debt or mortgages. They still have enough money to spend, but it's just the moving that was so expensive. They still get paid and have a reasonable amount of money though, but only enough for living and not enough to improve the house with furniture or painting it or stuff like that. Generally speaking, I'm always happy to lend my parents any kind of money that they need in the past, and previously it's always been paid back. I have had a really great relationship with them, and I respected them greatly growing up, especially my dad, and until recently we got along really well. I had planned on buying a car so I could work at my dream job, but they needed the money at the same time, so I gave it to them instead. Since then, I have grown increasingly bitter and angry towards them, as they have made no efforts to pay me back. And this shows in our relationship, as I am now really snappy or rude to them more often. I have lightly reminded them in the past weeks about the money that they owed me, and they just brushed it off, saying that, oh, you should just have patience. We don't have that kind of money yet. Eventually, I sat them down today, and I explained how much having a car would mean to me, and that I feel taken advantage of. My dad ended up saying, we will not pay you back anything until you stop with the rude comments and start showing us respect. And at that point, I ended up in tears because I honestly felt incredibly used. This was genuinely a first, as usually they try their best to pay me back in the past. It was always smaller amounts in the past though, and they used to treat me with respect and they were kind. They have shown no appreciation, besides a couple of thank you comments, and I honestly feel so depressed about it. I'm working at the moment and I'm saving more money, but it takes so long at $17 an hour. I also really need to buy a new phone, a new laptop, and several other things, but my funds are so low at the moment. My older sister, when she was my age, got $8,000 given to her for university, and she was given a laptop, an iPhone, and she was working at the time too, and had her own money to spend. She refuses to lend them her money, but she was given all this money in exchange for nothing. For me personally, based on my own personal beliefs, I don't like refusing someone in need when they really do need help. So if I have the money, I want to be willing to step up and help out. I still live with them, and moving out is not an option for me due to personal reasons. I also don't really want to move out as I'm very close to my siblings. How can I get them to pay me back, or at least set up a plan to do so? I am really struggling to come up with results, so any advice is really appreciated. What a tragedy this is. Basically, this original poster's parents said, oh, you want to give us $12,000? Thank you very much. And then they just took it, and they have no intention of paying it back. That would be literally the last time I would ever give them money, first and foremost. But most importantly, these parents are so toxic. I mean, this is $12,000. That is not a cheap amount. And the original poster has it right. There is so much that they could do with this money to try and improve their life and give them things that they need. They need a car, they need a laptop, they need a phone. Literally all of that's being obstructed because their parents took advantage of them. And yes, the original poster absolutely got taken advantage of. For better context, the original poster is only 18 years old, so it's understandable where you're thinking, hey, let me just lend some money to my parents. They clearly need a leg up, and I'm gonna help them out. The original poster probably never expected that their parents would never pay them back. So if I was in your shoes and they were really being this unmoving on giving me back my money, then I would feel used as well. This is really unfortunate for the original poster. Maybe there's some help if you talk with your extended family. Maybe talk to them about your situation and see if they might be able to help you out with what's going on. Because who knows, maybe they can talk to your mom or dad and explain to them, hey, you really need to pay your kid back. But hopefully you get this money back, because $12,000 is a lot of money, and it would be a shame for you to never get it back. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for cutting ties with my girlfriend a week before my family's Thanksgiving vacation? I'm a 22-year-old male, and I've been dating my now ex-girlfriend for about 2.5 years. I met her at college, and we hit it off straight away. We got together within the first month of talking to each other, and when she met my family, they instantly loved her. Every year, my family goes on a long vacation before Thanksgiving, and it's something I always look forward to. This year, I asked my family if my girlfriend could come on our Thanksgiving vacation. My mom said it was a great idea, and she is welcome. Around a month and a half before the vacation, my girlfriend sent me a text message saying saying that she no longer has feelings for me and that she wants to break up. And when I heard that, I was shattered. She never showed any signs of losing feelings for me. She was at my mom's house for dinner earlier that week. She never really told me why, but she kept saying, "Oh, it's not you," as well as saying, "There's no one else." I was hurt so much. I really loved her, and I could even see myself marrying her. I tried calling her and texting her, asking her what the problem was, but she either dodged the question or just straight up ignored me. I was in a very dark place for the first 2 weeks, but during the last 2 weeks, I have pulled myself up and I've gotten over it. Fast forward about a month, and I got a text message from a mutual friend about my ex-girlfriend saying that she broke up with her boyfriend and that she now wants to get back with me. This really surprised me, as she told me that she wasn't getting with anyone else and she just left me because she lost feelings. And soon enough, I get a call from my ex telling me that she wants to get back in a relationship with me. I told her that a mutual friend had told me that she was with someone else for the last month. She broke down and said that she did catch feelings for someone else, and she didn't want to tell me just because she didn't want to hurt me. She also said that the guy that she was seeing had cheated on her, and that she was coming to me for my support because I was always a loving and caring boyfriend. I told her that she would have been better off telling me that in the first place instead of ignoring me and putting me in such a dark place. I told her that I loved her and that I was really looking forward to going on my family's Thanksgiving vacation. She told me that she was sorry, and I half accepted her apology and just hung up after that. I was thinking about getting back with her until the same mutual friend sent me a screenshot of my ex telling this friend that basically because she dumped this other guy, she would then be able to get back with me and be able to go on this vacation with my family again. She then also implied that she was always going to go on this trip, regardless of the fact that her boyfriend cheated on her. And she was also basically trying to make me feel bad so that I would get back with her and take her with me on this trip. And at this point, I lost it. It really hurt knowing that she only came back to me because her current boyfriend cheated on her, and that she just wants me to feel bad just so I can bring her back into my life so she can go on my family's Thanksgiving vacation. I sent her the screenshot and said, "Don't ever talk to me again." And I blocked her on everything possible and completely cut ties with her. I told my parents and family, and they comforted me. And they actually booked an extra week of vacation, which was really nice of them. Now, back when I blocked my ex, all of her friends kept calling me, saying that I was such a jerk for doing that to her, telling me that because she got cheated on, I'm somehow supposed to be there for her to comfort her. They also tried to say that her going on that vacation would have really helped her recover from the trauma and stress that she went through, which is honestly ridiculous. But it begs the question, am I the jerk for cutting ties with my ex-girlfriend before my family went on their Thanksgiving vacation? Because honestly, I'm not sure. You are not the jerk in this situation. Your ex is literally just trying to use you to get back on that vacation trip, which is just really disgusting in my opinion. You absolutely made the right move of trying to get away from her. She was literally just trying to manipulate you and make you feel bad so you'll have to let her back in just so she can go on this vacation trip with your family. I mean, how weird is that? So honestly, just move on from that, because this lady sounds crazy, and you can find a girlfriend who will love you for who you are, as well as one who won't use you just to go on some vacation. An entitled mother sits there while her kid cries on the ground and refuses to help him after he fell off his bike, and I honestly could not be more annoyed. So I was in the park with some of my friends. We had been there for a few hours, and most of them decided to go home. One of my friend's bike chain had jumped off its gears, so I helped him put it back on. After he leaves, I start heading towards a cafe in the park so I could run into the restroom and wash the black grease from the bike chain off of my hands. And this is where the entitled mother comes into this story. As I was approaching the cafe, this little kid who couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old falls off his little kid bicycle and starts crying. No one goes to help this poor little kid, so I help the little boy off the floor and see that he has some scratches on his leg. I ask him if he knows where his parents are, but he can't get any word out through the tears. So he points at this lady sitting on the bench nearby who is looking up at the whole situation. I pick up his little bike and I'm about to walk him over to his mom when a man runs up to us in quite a panic to see if his son is all right. At this point, I noticed that the chain on the kid's bike was dangling off. As I still had grease on my hands from fixing my friend's bike earlier, I offer to help out and try and put his chain back on his bike. At this point, the dad is being very thankful towards me. He asks his son where his mom was, and the boy once again points to the same lady sitting on a bench, who is still just watching the situation play out. The father sighs, and you can hear the frustration in his voice now. I give the bike to the dad once once I'm done and he thanks me. As I'm about to walk away to go wash my hands, the lady who had been watching the whole situation up until this point walks up to me and gives me a $10 bill. I ask her what this was for, and she says it's for fixing her son's bike. And at this point, I just about lost my mind. I say to this lady with the most shocked expression I've probably ever had on my face, "You just watched your son fall off his bike and get hurt, and you didn't budge from the bench, you didn't care, but instead you're going to pay me for fixing his bike?" And once I had said that, she looks at me as if she had done nothing wrong and proceeds to say, "Oh, he's just exaggerating." She says this as she glances at the kid sitting on the ground with his dad cleaning the cut that he got on his knee. I look at this entitled mother and I say, "Look, keep your money, lady. Just take care of your child, please." And I proceed to walk off to the cafe restroom. As I'm walking away, I hear the dad starting to argue with her. I have no idea what happened next or what they were saying to each other, but regardless, I just hope this mom finally starts to look after her kid. How weird and entitled can you possibly get? Here's your kid falling on the ground, screaming and crying, cutting their leg open, and you're just sitting there on the bench watching a stranger take care of them. I mean, if that's not a terrible parent, I don't know what is. Thankfully, this kid has a good father who's actively involved in this kid's life, because the mom literally just sat there like a passenger and did absolutely nothing to help their son, which is not fair for the kid at all, or for the person who helped him out in the first place. I mean, they didn't have to stop and help this kid. The fact that he stopped in public just to help out a child is really brave of him, to be completely honest, because there are some crazy people out there that would make some crazy assumptions. So good for him for at least doing a good deed for the day, even if this mom is a terrible mother and would rather let a stranger take care of her kid as opposed to stepping up and doing the right thing. My entitled mother goes through my diary and learns about my deep dark secrets just to try and use them against me. And when I tried to approach her about it, she just doubled down and said that she did this for my own good, and I honestly could not be more upset. Here's what happened. For some backstory, my mom is religious and incredibly intrusive, more so nowadays since my brother got married and moved out. She doesn't believe in privacy and thinks she has to know everything. I have known her to pry into my drawers and things and listen behind the door at times when I'm either talking to someone or myself. She also did this with my brother when he was still living here, listening in on his video calls to his fiance because she didn't trust his marriage. It started with him, but now she's moved on to me. So I was feeling mentally ill, and my mom knew about this and suggested that I write down my thoughts on paper to get everything out. I didn't know how to feel about therapy yet, and I thought it was a good idea. For the next year and a half, I wrote down my emotions, stuff like how my day went, my experiences, everything. I would vent, I would cry, I would smile to this book. I would even draw down my feelings if I felt like it. It was very personal to me, and there was some extremely personal stuff in that journal. Things including my darkest thoughts, my true identity, and descriptive details about my relationship with my partner. I never planned for anyone to read it, especially my mother. Some days, however, she would ask me questions to say things that would sound awfully similar to what I would be experiencing at the time, even though I had not told her anything. I got suspicious, but I never asked, and instead, I just started to hide my journal. One day, I was approached by my partner who was paranoid and wanted to buy a pregnancy test. I was extremely nervous and I was stressed as we were too young to take care of a baby. I mean, we wanted to have a kid one day, but not this early. I had so many emotions going on inside my head, but I took the test and it turned out negative. We were both relieved and we calmed down for the rest of the day. But at the end of the day, I wrote down an entry regarding what happened and I just tucked it away. The next morning was eerily quiet. We had woken up for mass and my brother was driving us there. He was acting normal. It was my mom and dad that were very off. I would try looking to my mom, but she'd either look away or stare right through me. It was an extremely uncomfortable drive. When we made it to church, my mom and brother left the car, while my dad and I stayed inside for the next 30 minutes before mass starts. I look over to my dad and I ask him, "Dad, what's going on? Why is mom acting so cold?" It takes him a minute just to respond to me before he says, "You shouldn't leave your diary lying around." My heart and my stomach dropped. She could have read anything or everything. I was absolutely terrified for what would happen next, but I also felt really hurt and betrayed. My dad helped to console me and admitted that he didn't want to read it, but my mom forced him to listen to her reading it out loud to him. He wanted to respect my privacy and had the same experience in the past where his mom read through his diaries and confronted him about them, in which he later had to end up burning those diaries. I was really thankful to have had him there by my side, and I couldn't have asked for a better dad. Since then, we've been getting along and have a much closer relationship. My mom and I, on the other hand, we finally had a sit down that night and we talked, and she finally told me herself about the journal. She confronted me about my most recent entry, the pregnancy test entry, and told me how mortified she was that I was spending quality time before marriage. And she just kept asking me, "You do know that's not right, right? It's not how a Catholic girl should be." She went on and on, sobbing and questioning whether she was naive to believe I could behave and not be tempted, as well as asking the heart-wrenching question, "Am I not a good mother?" I just sat there, crying silently with my head down, while my dad stayed quiet until he decided to sit next to me and hug me close. Eventually, I spoke up and I asked her, "Why did you look through my journal? What gives you the right?" She argued that she had every right, since I was going through a tough time and she was looking out for me since I never talked to her about my problems, and that apparently this is the only way that she'll know. And now this is apparently a way for me to learn to trust her. But I don't want to talk to her about what's going on in my mind. It always ends up relating to her religious beliefs or making me feel more terrible than I already do feel. And her reading through my diary didn't make me want to trust her anymore. If anything, it made me want to run away. Ever since then, there's been a massive rift between me and my mom. I'm usually very forgiving, sometimes a little too forgiving, but I don't know if this is something I can let go of. Before, any behavior that I saw, I just brushed off because I thought I was overreacting. But after that, it became a bit clearer to me that something really was off. It really sunk in for me when I was telling a friend this same story while also stating, "But she's a nice mom, right? She makes me food and buys me clothes." My friend then stopped me and mentioned how those are just basic necessities and that I shouldn't be basing my relationship with her on whether or not she's providing those basic necessities. My friend then asked me how she's supporting me in my life or if I have any other good memories with her. And after that, I just blanked, which is honestly really unfortunate. So to all the parents out there, please understand this. If your kid wants to talk to you, they will if they feel you are approachable and will be supportive. But if they don't want to, that's fine too, and they are entitled to their own privacy. And don't spy on your kids in hopes that it will bring you two closer together, as it will only make you drift apart and could potentially break your relationship with them. What an awful situation to be stuck in. I think it's funny that your mom asked the question, "Am I a good mother?" Because you know what? If you're spying on your kid like that and making assumptions about your kid based on a private journal entry, then yeah, you're a pretty terrible mother. A journal or a diary is just that. It's supposed to be private experiences that you're just trying to get out of your head and document for later reference. Later meaning like, I don't know, years later, not like 10 minutes later. The original poster's mom is incredibly toxic, and no amount of justifying on her end is ever going to excuse her going through this person's diary, because in my opinion, there's absolutely no good reason for that. My boyfriend's family is really controlling of his life, and I honestly don't know what to do in our circumstance. My boyfriend and I have been together for almost 2 years. We graduated in June, and we're planning on moving in together in a new city. Because he ended up getting a job in his hometown, I decided to move with him. We've been living separately for the first few months, due to him wanting to spend more time with his family, as well as just try to save some money, which I've been okay with since I was able to find a pretty solid job and have been able to support myself while living with my roommates. Before moving, we agreed that we would live separately for a couple of months for the above reasons before moving in together, especially so his family could become more acquainted with me. Flash forward a few months to now, and I am more than ready for us to move in together. I'm tired of living with roommates, and I want a nicer place. I'm also tired of having to go to his parents' house whenever I want to see him. I want my boyfriend and I to have our own life together. The only thing stopping us is his family's rejection and disapproval of our idea. They are deeply religious and think it's too early for us to move in together. In fact, they want to sit down and have a discussion about compromising in some way instead of just allowing us to move in together. We talked for over an hour last night over the phone, which was per their request. Their ideas are that he lives with me part-time and pays me 1/4 of my rent, which is just financially unfeasible. This city is very expensive, and that just would not work. The other option is that we wait until later in the future. And you know what? I really don't want to compromise. Reason being that I don't want to set a precedent that it's okay for them to interfere or dictate our life decisions. That's just not going to happen. We are both adults adults, and we both make our own money. I also feel that I already made a lot of sacrifices by moving across the state on the premise that we would live together. My boyfriend and I have already put a lot of thought into this individually, and I am of the belief that family members can be there to guide and provide wisdom in the process, but they shouldn't play a huge role in making the ultimate decision. So I honestly need to know, who is being unreasonable here? Is it me or is it the parents? Am I showing red flags, as they would put it? What should I do? I don't think it's unreasonable for you two to make your own decisions. For context, the people that are being described in this story are not teenagers. They are in their 20s, they are adults. They very much can make their own decisions in their life. So the fact that this guy's parents are stepping in and saying, okay, let's do it this way, which would definitely be financially unfeasible for you, is really inappropriate in my opinion, and I honestly would not take it. If you want to move in with your boyfriend, that is a decision between the two of you. They have literally nothing to do with it. And if anything, this is a problem with your boyfriend. I mean, how is he allowing them to basically run his life? He is 22 years old. He should be able to make his own adult choices. He does not need them all over him, dictating what he can and cannot do. That's not fair for you, and it's definitely not fair for him. And honestly, letting these people in to have some kind of discussion, as if they have any chips in this game, is only going to cause frustration in your life. I'm not saying cut them out, but I think cutting them out of this decision specifically and making it between you and your boyfriend would do both of you a lot of good. Because you said it best. You literally moved across the state under the mutual assumption that you would be living with your boyfriend eventually. And if that somehow gets ruined because of his parents, that would be incredibly infuriating. So I think have a conversation with your boyfriend and decide with him specifically what you two want to do, because his parents do not make the decisions anymore. And honestly, it really comes down to what you and your boyfriend want to do. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And the next time you live stream, use the Cream of the Crop music. Search Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your next stream.